This is the Voice of the Land podcast.
However, we did want to make sure that we did start our conversation today with the events that have transpired this week and just kind of some brief conversation on it, because it is important that we do address this. Of course, George Floyd, who was unfortunately was killed in a police stop, police altercation this week in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and all of the protests, riots that have kind of broken out, not just in Minnesota, but across the country. Paulus, I just want to I'll start with you. We'll go around the table here. Just your thoughts on this, the George Floyd situation, similar to what we've seen, unfortunately, in other cases throughout, Eric Garner,
Yes.
guys like that. Even, kids, Tamir Rice here in Cleveland.
Yeah, right here in our own backyard.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, still these events still transpiring in our country. Just your thoughts on that and how the country is responding to it.
It's very tough right now. Being, us three white guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're looking at it from in a view that we couldn't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
It just has to stop. I mean, it just plain and simple. I mean, the police brutality that is going on against African Americans in this country is appalling. I mean, and I'm looking right at the camera right now. We need this to stop. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, what happened in Minnesota, 5 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is appalling. The fact that the guy was right on his freaking neck. I mean, it's tough to talk about because
Yes.
I mean, we're all human. But they're putting them down like they're freaking dogs. Like they're putting them down like an animal that needs to be put out of its misery, and that is so far from what the world needs right now. This is appalling, and it's not just this event. I mean, you spoke about it, with other cases as
Yes.
well. It's been an epidemic forever. That has been going on. It is just sad that we don't know how to come together. And there are, peaceful protests, and there's been, riots as well. I mean, Minnesota looks like a war zone right now.
Yes.
I mean, it is devastating. Atlanta, even in our own backyard in Canton, SWAT actually ended up going down there. I mean, tear gas was shot. People were getting hit with rubber bullets. I mean, it is a strange, sad, eerie, god-awful feeling that we're looking at right now. I don't know. We've been looking at these peaceful protests, and Colin Kaepernick,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was Colin Kaepernick's stance.
Yeah.
Against police brutality for minorities, especially, African Americans that are getting essentially gunned down in the streets. It is just a ridiculous thing that has been going on forever, and it needs to stop. And I don't know the best way to handle this. I don't think that riots are the thing that should be going on for it. But I'm looking at you, America, right now, because I don't know how to handle this. I mean, we've done the peaceful protests. African Americans, everyone has done the peaceful protest, and it's still, your voice hasn't been heard. I don't know how to fix this situation. I'm hoping people that are much smarter than me, learn how to, fix this situation. And hopefully we can live in peace. But until that happens, I mean, I really don't know the best way to handle this.
Right. Peter, I mean, just your thoughts as the week has kind of transpired.
Yeah, it's a really unfortunate situation. I mean, I saw some of the video, and it was awful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like you said, Nick, three white guys sitting here. I can't pretend to understand
Right.
what anyone else goes through. I actually can't pretend to understand what you guys go through in your life. I mean, I have never walked in your shoes. One of the issues I have is, you talk like Tamir Rice. I have a relative that's on the Cleveland Police Force. Some of these things, they get calls that are, hey, this guy, there's someone waving a gun around.
Mm-hmm.
The police have, they're coming in with a mindset. I don't know all the details of that. I don't think anyone ever will, exactly how that transpired. So I don't want to talk about that.
Right.
But this is a guy. They pull him over for writing bad checks.
Yeah, I think that was the initial
Yeah.
thought of it.
Right. I
And
mean, that's he wasn't, it wasn't like he's waving a gun around or what looks like a gun.
there was no threat.
There's no
there was zero threat, and the man
Right.
ended up dying.
And the way the officer just like calmly was kneeling on this guy's neck was insane. The thing that really upsets me about it though is I understand the protests. I understand what gets me is the riots, because I understand that there's anger,
Mm-hmm.
but when you
Absolutely.
start destroying your own community,
Mhm.
and I'm sure it's just there's a few bad apples that come into a protest and turn it into a riot. But when it gets to that, all of a sudden that overshadows everything else,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes it so difficult to have a meaningful conversation about race in this country, because something bad happens, and then like you said, Minneapolis looks like a war zone.
Yeah.
That overshadows everything.
But you have to get your voice out there somehow. And I once again, I don't like the fact that there are riots going on
Right.
in our country. But the thing is how else are you going to express it if they're not paying attention to your peaceful protest, which everyone's been trying to keep it calm. Then what are you going to do? The top's going to explode, and that's exactly what's going on right now. And honestly, I was talking to my wife about it the other day. Like, I don't know how to go from here. Being where I'm at right now, we're going to have protests here, in Cleveland. They're scheduled for today. I talked about the Canton ones last night, and tear gas. Rubber bullets. I mean, SWAT was out in Canton last night. That's 20 minutes away from my house. I'm terrified that all of this terribleness that is going on between not just us, white and black, green, brown, orange. I don't care who anyone is. Like, we as people need to come together, and that's why I think that it is necessary for us, once again, as three white guys, just that we need to stand up and we need to show that we are all for humanity, and we want everyone to come together. And the only way that we can do that is by getting justice for George Floyd.
I've thought about what we were going to say, whether we were going to talk about this or not, and it is important that we do talk about this to start the podcast. And I'm going to look right into this camera right now, and I'm going to get this out, and I want people to listen. I know that there are people saying on Twitter and social media, if you don't like what I'm saying, go ahead and hit the unfollow button or hit the, unfriend me, whatever. I don't want that to be the case. If you disagree with me, let's have a conversation. Because riots have broken out because people have tried to start the conversation, and it has not worked. As wrong as it is, and as, still kind of criminal act to go into a store, steal things, break things, we don't know what else to do. And we are not just three white guys, but in this room right now, white Americans. So we don't understand what other people go through of different color, different race, different backgrounds, different sexual orientation. But you better be we better be ones to stand up and say that it's not right the way that these people are being treated. We don't know what they go through, but we know it's not right.
Absolutely.
And we need leaders in this country on all sides of the table. I don't care what side you fall into on the political standard. This is not a political conversation. This is a human conversation. This is a human rights conversation. This is a character conversation. And yes, we do support our first responders, our nurses, our police officers, our firemen, but we also know that there are ones out there that are not doing it for the right thing. And the fact that there are so many police officers willing to speak out against fellow brothers and sisters in arms, in blue, about this, you know that they don't do that very often.
Right.
And there are so many videos of police officers across this country saying that it was murder. It was not a traditional police operation. And there are a few making the whole group of police officers look bad as well. And to the family of George Floyd, all I can say is condolences, sorry. But I don't know what else to say, because
nothing's ever going to bring him back. And that is the worst part about this.
Nothing is going to bring him back. Nothing is going to make this better until leaders step up and we actually have these conversations and we get past this. This is still going back to civil rights and beyond that. How are we not past this? It is because of leaders lacking the ability to have a real conversation. I heard President Hopeful and former Vice President Joe Biden yesterday say on CNN that while my grandpa was watching and it was in the background, I just overheard one aspect of it. Him saying, I don't want to be too open or too honest right now, or I don't want to say anything that I'll regret. But that is what we need right now. We need open, honest, reality-based conversation because humans are dying in the streets for no reason. And just because someone may go to their phone on their waist should not cause them to be afraid that they're going to lose their life for that. If we're going to allow people to run into state houses, and I fully support all of our amendments, all of our rights, but people wielding guns and causing panic in state houses across the country so that states will open, if we're going to allow that, and we know what kind of color-based that was, you better allow someone and go through the proper channels and operations before it escalates to a point that it did last week. And the other 3 officers that stood around, you are just as culpable. That cannot happen, and it needs to end. And again, if you disagree with us, what we're saying, have a conversation.
Yes.
Why do you disagree? Not, I'm going to unfollow you, you're not for this country, you're not for the flag.
You're against cops, you're against this, you're against that. No. Let's have that conversation.
I'm for the American flag, but I'm also for human rights and doing what the Constitution says. Equal rights for all. It doesn't matter what color or background you come from. We are human beings. We should not just always identify as white Americans, African Americans. Yes, that is your identification, but it should not be what people judge you based on. We should judge each other based on human interaction, human conversation, and all having the equal basis to stand on, to have a voice, and to act upon what we believe in, to have this country develop into what the Constitution says it's supposed to be, not how we interpret it from how they utilized it back in 1776.
Right. And I want to wrap this up here just for my talk, portion of it. The fact that it took 4 days to bring that man to being arrested and being arraigned, and I believe it's $500,000 for his bail money. I'm not saying all of this would have been it would have changed everything had they arrested him like that day.
We know how things happen with these kind of cases, no matter
what. I mean, it doesn't matter that it was this case or another.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Like, once again, the top's about to explode on this entire country, and I mean, I for one am terrified of living in a country that it's tough to believe in a certain thing or to go back and forth with everything. I believe in human rights, and I believe that we need to solve this issue that we've had in this country for, it feels like 400 years. I mean, if not longer. We need to be better as an entire human race. We need to come together, and we need to be a lot better than what we have been.
And just as we transition back into our sports conversations we're having here today, you and I are trying to develop a career in this industry. We are not the only 2 trying to do that right now.
Right.
There are others that are already established, and we are trying to follow their path, and there are many people like us. And we are trying to gain opportunities in other avenues as well. I do not want opportunities because of the color of my skin. I want opportunities based on my merit, my work ethic,
yes,
and what I bring to the table. If that is not good enough and someone is better than me, no matter what background they come from, who they identify as, whatever that may be, if they are better than me, then that opportunity should go to them, and I need to work on myself to earn my opportunity. I want that merit-based system for opportunity, not any other advantage that may be out there. And that is where the conversation needs to start, and that's where we need to get to in this country. And it's not there, and it's unfortunate, because I love our country. I love the United States of America. I love what the flag stands for. I don't know that we see what the flag is supposed to stand for actually being acted upon and being developed in this country at the rate that it should have been.
Agreed.